Hey, you're listening to Don't Lie to Your Life Coach podcast with Kim Arrington. I'm Kim Arrington. I'm a life coach, a weight loss coach, an author, and a badass passionate about helping you connect back to your most authentic self. Join me here each week so I can coach you on how to think all those juicy thoughts that get you feeling your absolute best and taking some big ass action. Coaching has changed my life, and it can change your life too. I'm here to give you real life solutions to create a life you'll love. Because the truth is, boo, you ain't just got problems, you got options. Ooh, wee, hee, hee, hee. Hey. I am so excited to do this podcast. I can tell you that yesterday hey. I can tell you yesterday I woke up feeling like OMG. Now, to set the table, we're in the last week of 2024, and I was like, oh, bejesus. I wanted to get this done, and I was kind to myself. I talked to myself and said, "You've done so much. It has been an incredible year. It's been one of the best years of my life." But I was like, I said out loud, I need to realize how much time I have. I need to create more time to feel less stressed. And by creating more time, it doesn't mean to do more. It means to slow down time enough to recognize all of what I'm doing. And I was like, oh, yes. So this podcast is for you if you're starting to feel burned out. This podcast is for you if you're constantly running out of time and feeling like there's just never enough hours in the day to do everything you should be doing. I hate the word should, that you could be doing. This podcast is for you if you find yourself scheduling me time to manage your stress, but it never feels enough. I noticed a person in my life who came off a vacation and then was like, oh, I need to leave early because I know that they have not created time. And creating time is the same thing as creating space in your life to feel like you're already doing the thing, okay? So this podcast is for you if you're stressed about the lack of time to get things done, and you're even more stressed about the stress itself. That's the circle of stress. I feel stressed about this thing, and then I feel stressed that I feel stressed about this thing. This podcast is for you if you're overwhelmed by everything that's on your plate, but the thought of sitting still feels like the luxury you ain't got time for. This podcast is for you if you feel like you're always behind and you need to create more time to breathe, but can't figure out how. And this podcast is for you if you're stuck in a cycle of feeling like there is just never enough. There's too much to do and you don't know. It's starting to take a toll. You don't know where to begin. And so we're going to break free in this podcast from the stress-free trap and find a way to actually create more time, i.e. peace, that you need. Now, I am deeply connected to spirit, as we all are. That's my belief. And when I ask a question, I know it will always be answered. And I was just like, this book, like, I need to figure this out. I don't want to put a date on my calendar that's done. I want to trust that I can do it because I know that I can do all things. And a quiet, gentle voice came in my head and said, you need to set a timer for 45 minutes to see everything you're getting done in that time. And when you do that, the confidence of knowing what you do in 45 minutes and then you take 15 off. Pomodoro method. You take 45 minutes, you take 15 off. You go around the block. You don't just scroll your phone. You call a friend. You do all these things. And I did that yesterday in my first 45-minute cycle. And I had to look at the time because I got so much done in that 45 minutes that I looked at the time and I was like, it still had 15 minutes on it. I slowed down time enough to notice time, and it felt like I created time. But in reality, I just observed myself. I need y'all to set a timer. I do this when I'm cleaning up. I want to know on the inverse that I can get the dishes done in 20 minutes. And by the way, I'm not the only person that does the dishes in this house. I need for you all to understand that your makeup routine actually only takes 10 minutes so that you could do it more. My makeup routine is as a matter of fact, I'm going to set a timer. I know it takes less time than 15 minutes. Because when I realize that it takes less time, I'm more likely to do it. And I love the way I feel when I walk out the house like this with the glazed donut look. But I also love the way I feel when I walk out the house with my makeup and my clothes. I need to remind myself that it doesn't take a million hours. So time works both ways, right? I can slow it down and see how much I get done in the amount of time. And I can recognize the vital things that I like to do take less time. Look at that. Look at that polarity. How could that change your life? The thing you've been dreading that you do it first and you set a timer and you're like, oh my gosh, it only took me 30 minutes. So then the next time you dread something, you're like, remember when your brain loves this? Your brain loves patterns, okay? Predictable pathways. And you recall, remember when that thing I hated took 30 minutes? Let me set my timer and see how long this takes. Oh my gosh, it took 26 minutes. I need to know that when I don't want to do something, if I do it first, in the middle of it, I'm okay. It's the getting started that feels hard, but if I just sidestep that, like it's just hard to start. Who cares if it's hard to start? I know it's going to be hard to start, but in the middle, in the 10-minute mark, at the 5-minute mark, it didn't feel hard. This will change your life. I talked about in the first podcast of the year, which I will link to this, being scared positive. Like, or did I call it positive scared? It doesn't matter. It's the same thing. It's this idea that when I'm doing something that I don't want to do or I haven't done a lot and it really could benefit me, that I'm going to have this feeling of fear. I have it every time I take a big break in podcast and I come back. Like this podcast this year is going to blow the fuck up. Do you all understand that? And part of how it'll blow the fuck up is that I enjoy doing it again. Well, how do I enjoy doing it again? I answer that question, or at least a little bit of that question, and I go forth, right? I'll tell you one of the ways I'll enjoy podcasts even more. Well, now I have something that helps to edit the podcast, so it cuts down the time that I have to edit it. And eventually, someone will be doing this, and eventually, the tech will be better. But I'll tell you what, not taking that picture off the wall, I like doing the podcast more because for a long time, I'd take this picture off the wall because it has a glare. Y'all got to get over the glare. I don't care. You know what else? Me knowing that I have podcast batched. So I've got to make sure I'm recording 2 a week and then let them keep building up because you're going to use one every week and then use my tools to make things. Do you understand? And then pushing these out here, creating the clips to push them out there so then people are talking about it and post them on TikTok and post them on Instagram. So it doesn't feel like I'm just making the podcast for myself. Understanding that with any podcast, you're going to have a little bit of a listener purge, where some of your listeners fall off. They forget about the podcast, they do other things, but you're continually bringing new listeners in. And then there are people who are waiting all the time for your podcast. So my podcast, I think the growth I determined was going to be 500%. And I will share those stats with you. I'm going to use ChatGPT to figure out my current viewership and what 500% looks like. And then I'm going to share it with you. Talking to people that I have a podcast, connecting with them, reminding them, creating the podcast emails, all those things. Okay. So sometimes creating time, more time, is also creating rituals that bring more eyes or magnitude to a situation where that one email reaches, like, let's just say 10,000 people. And instead of me, like, do you know how long it would take me to go talk to 10,000 people? But an email that reaches 10,000 people, or do you know how long it would take for me? Like, let's just say I have a TikTok that has 400 views. Do you know how long it would take me to go talk to 400 people? But like, once I put it out there, see, I believe there is a connection between creating time and being seen. Uh-oh, some of y'all don't want to be seen. Why come? Why come? If we are honest with ourselves, we have a need to be seen and heard and understood intimately by ourselves, but also for service to others. When we do that for ourselves and we've centered ourselves and there's that overflow, we do have a feeling of sharing that. So finding ways that get you into, to project you or megaphone you into areas where you are doing less but gaining more, especially if your business or whatever. Like if you have a restaurant and it's not doing well, sitting around thinking about it not doing well and ruminating about that does not help it do well. Action is what helps it do well, right? Marketing is what helps it do well. Not talking about marketing, but actually doing action. To create more time, you are essentially creating action, either a bigger action that yields you more, or you're creating more actions that yield you more. Okay. Oh, here are some other, so I told you about setting the timer. I've given you some other things. But to create more time, you're going to have to delegate more. Delegate, delegate, delegate. Okay. Well, if I delegate, they're not going to do it right. You're going to need to let go of this whole do it right rigidity. My thing about delegating comes in two ways. I'll ask someone to do something for me. It's okay to inconvenience others. For God's sakes, people inconvenience you. Please if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably not a person who inconveniences others often. You need to be inconveniencing others more. And the way you do that is through delegating and asking. And if the person you ask doesn't do it, then you need to keep asking until you get the right answer or the right person. I will link my podcast about asking for help in this episode. So, the other thing about creating more time, y'all are addicted to stress. You think you all are addicted to food, and some of y'all might be addicted to alcohol, and you think you're addicted to overspending. You're actually addicted to stress. You're addicted to rumination about that stress. You are addicted to not having peace. You are addicted to creating and sabotaging where there is peace. And how does that change? Awareness is the first step. If you went for a week and looked at all your stressed times and thought about ways that you created that stress, I'll give you a good one, an Amazon cart. Y'all in Amazon, Jesus Christ. Okay. So you're struggling with money and your cart is full. You don't know this, but part of the reason why you have a full cart is because you are addicted to the stress of not having resolution in a situation, of not having peace. So if you know you don't have money and then you spend money you don't have, but it feels good, that dopamine hit of thinking about even buying those stuff, and then the dopamine hit of actually buying it, and you're chasing that dopamine, but really underlying is that stress that you are addicted to. You've probably been addicted to it your whole life. It probably was in your home growing up. That's not to blame all that. What do you want to do now? Do you want to stay that way? You're gonna have to stop fucking buying shit and going on walks, finding dopamine in other ways, going to free stuff, telling a friend, hey, I'm reducing my spending by 10%, cooking at home. Or like what I do when I eat out, it ends up being 2 to 3 meals. So saving money that, you understand what I'm saying? You need to maybe go for a job that pays more. You need to maybe, and I'm going to put my work podcast in here too. I'll link that. You need to maybe um think about ways to like this is what I'm saying. Like spinning your wheels, feeling bad about your failing restaurant or relationships having trouble, but like why not put down that addiction to stress and create time? That's what we're talking podcast is about. Create time by giving yourself solution. I always say this, the solution is in the problem. Okay. Um, this year I want to talk to you all about emotional elegance. I haven't decided if it's going to be emotional elegance or emotional mastery. I haven't decided yet. I'm giving myself time for the language. But to create more time, you have to, and I kind of said it in this last one, you have to let go of the cycle of react, ruminate, or resist. If you're feeling bad, I know you all want to think about when something's done to you, okay? But we never talk about what we do to ourselves, and that's what we can control the most. If you are reacting constantly, overreacting, then you are you're overthinking about it. That means you're ruminating. And if you are ruminating about it, then you are resisting some type of action that could get you out of reaction and rumination. This needs its own podcast, and I'll do that for you all. But one of the things that has helped me, I have been reading this book and listening to the book because I create time I don't read a lot anymore. I listen, which is reading. My favorite librarian, I don't know his name. He's this adorable black guy who says, hey, an audiobook is reading. I love him for that. I didn't need him to say it, but it was cool. The book is called Don't Believe Everything You Think. And the author talks about thoughts versus thinking. But thinking is, I can't believe I've let myself gain this much weight. I can't believe that I can't say no to food. I can't believe that I'm drinking as much as I am. I can't believe. So suffering comes from the thinking, not the thought. If your thought, which I'm going to, I've already linked my episode on anchors, you can use an anchor of, I love feeling good in my body, then when that thinking comes up of all the ways you don't do that, you can just respond to, yeah, but I'm going to be committed to feeling good in my body. And I hear this thinking that's happening of all the things that I'm not doing and it's not helpful. So I'm just going to return to this thought. And as a matter of fact, maybe I'll just circle the block right now. I'll just go on a walk. Let me have a behavior, an action, a body action to reinforce what my mental thing is. And we're going to talk about this a lot in this year, is how it's not good enough just to think something. You need a body action to go with it to make you feel better. So a thought is, I feel sad about how my interaction was with my mom. Thinking is, she's always been this way. I can't believe her. I should have a better mom. All this, by the way, I'm not talking about my mom. My mom is amazing. Sorry, but it's true. So, what I would go back to is, and thoughts don't just have to be positive, right? It's like I'm feeling sad about my relationship with my mom, and then a body action is to cry. A body action is to find a prosthetic mother figure, someone who can be the exact mother. I see a person in my life as a colleague, but I know she sees me as a mother figure. And I love that too. I remind her we're colleagues, but I auntie her, and I mother her, and I see her glow. I know I'm a prosthetic, and it makes me feel emotional to think about it, but I know I'm a prosthetic mother to her. And that helps me because I don't have biological children, right? There's this circle. Creating more time. If you could just do one thing today out of this whole list I gave you, set a timer. Set a timer to figure out how short and how it doesn't take you a long time to do the things you dread, and set a timer that helps you see all the things that you do. Okay? Easy affirmation for this episode. I have plenty of time. I always have plenty of time. I always have plenty of time. We're going to have so much fun together in 2025 and beyond. We're going to have so much fun together. I believe in y'all so much. I believe in me. And I know why I'm here now. And I am doing it. And I want you to do the same. Okay? I'll see y'all next week. Have a good one.
Are you feeling what you just heard? Good, good. Repeat after me. You don't have to figure it out on your own again anymore. I'm here to help. Head over to kimarrington.com and download my free video series dedicated to getting you feeling your best right now. Look around, there's some good stuff waiting on you. Got questions? Well, we're always talking on the socials, so find me on YouTube, Insta, and the book. Don't be shy, y'all. Go listen to another episode or join me here the same time next week. Finally, don't keep good shit to yourself. Share this with a homie that could use some help too. Remember, we're not lying to ourselves anymore. We're not lying to our doctors. And you damn sure don't lie to your life coach.